The cameras showed 5 kids at my door, but only 4 were ever there. That line has been looping in my head for days now. Every time I close my eyes, I see that frozen frame, 4 kids standing on my porch, smiling through plastic masks, and one motionless figure at the edge of the yard. Halloween has always been my favorite night of the year. The air feels crisp, the leaves crunch beneath your shoes, and there's this nostalgic warmth in the chill, something that makes you feel like a kid again. But this year, something about the night felt off from the start. It was my first Halloween alone in the house since my divorce. My ex used to handle decorations, the fake cobwebs, the flickering lanterns, the motion-activated witch that scared every delivery guy for weeks. This year, I decided to keep things simple. Just a pumpkin on the steps and a bowl of candy on a small wooden table by the door. I live in a quiet neighborhood outside of Portland. Small, safe, and family-heavy. Every year, the same kids make their rounds. I even recognize their costumes from last year's photos. Around 7, the trick-or-treating rush began. The laughter, the muffled chatter through plastic masks, the shuffling of tiny sneakers on the walkway. It felt good to hear people again. By 8:30, the flow had slowed. I poured myself some wine, sat on the couch, and left the Ring doorbell notifications running on my phone, partly to monitor the candy, partly for that comforting feeling of not being totally alone. At 8:47, the motion alert pinged. I muted the TV, smiling automatically. "All right," I muttered. "Let's see who we've got." 4 kids stood at the door. A skeleton, a witch, a small Batman, and a vampire with crooked fangs. Normal. I got up, grabbed the bowl, and opened the door to the sound of trick or treat. They were polite, cheerful, each grabbing a piece of candy before heading off down the walkway. But I noticed something then, a slight shift in the air. Behind them, near the edge of the yard, stood someone else, a 5th figure. They were taller than the kids, maybe a teenager, still unmoving. They wore a plain hoodie and an old, cracked mask, white, expressionless, with a single black line drawn across the mouth. I felt that tiny flicker of discomfort you try to rationalize. Maybe an older sibling waiting for the younger ones. Maybe someone watching over them. When I blinked, they were gone. I brushed it off, shut the door, and went back to the couch. By 10:15, the street was silent. The kind of silence only Halloween night can have after the last doorbell rings. I finished my drink, turned off the porch light, and went to bed. The next morning, I checked the Ring footage out of habit, and that's when I froze. The camera clearly showed 5 figures, 4 kids at my door, and that same masked person standing motionless at the edge of the yard, facing the house. Only this time, they weren't just standing there. They were staring directly into the camera. At first, I thought the Ring app was glitching. Sometimes the camera picks up odd reflections or compresses footage in strange ways. But when I paused the frame, zoomed in slowly, that mask came into sharp focus. It wasn't just any mask. It was my mask. The same cracked, expressionless Halloween mask I'd worn last year, when my ex and I threw our final Halloween party together. I hadn't touched it since. It was buried in one of the attic boxes with the rest of our old decorations. My stomach tightened. I replayed the clip over and over. Each time, that 5th figure stood perfectly still, almost unnaturally still, like a photograph. Their head didn't tilt, their chest didn't rise or fall, just motionless, staring. I scrolled forward. The clip ended when the kids turned away and left. The next alert, 2 minutes later, showed an empty yard. No one walking away. No footsteps. No shape disappearing down the street. Just gone. I sat there, staring at my phone, the faint hum of the refrigerator behind me, the only sound in the house. By noon, curiosity had won out over reason. I went to the attic. The air was stale, thick with dust, and the faint smell of insulation. Boxes were stacked in uneven piles against the walls. Christmas, old photos, Danielle stuff, Halloween, 2022. That last one made my hands shake. I pulled it forward, popped the flaps open. Fake cobwebs, paper bats, a few half-melted candles, but no mask. I checked the smaller box beside it. Nothing. I tore through every box in that corner. The mask was gone. For the rest of the day, I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe I'd thrown it out and forgotten. Maybe one of the neighbor's kids found it in the trash. But that night, as I turned off the lights and headed upstairs, I caught a glimpse of something through the front window. Just the faintest hint of movement near the yard. I froze mid-step, heart hammering. Outside, under the dim glow of the streetlight, the same figure stood on the sidewalk, the cracked mask turned toward my house. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The figure didn't move either. They just stood there, watching. I slowly backed away from the window and called the police, my voice trembling. I told them someone was standing outside my home, possibly trespassing, possibly stalking. By the time the officer arrived, the street was empty. No footprints, no sign of anyone. He suggested it might have been a prank, Halloween hangover, he called it, and promised to have a patrol car circle the block for a few nights. I wanted to believe him, but later that night, I woke up to a sound that made my skin crawl. A soft, slow tapping coming from downstairs. Not knocking, not footsteps, just that careful, deliberate tap, tap, tap against the living room window. At first, I thought it was the branches outside brushing against the glass. That was the rational explanation. It was windy, and the old maple tree near the porch had long, thin limbs that scraped the siding when storms rolled through. But the sound was too rhythmic, too intentional. Tap, tap, pause, tap, like someone testing the glass with a fingertip. I sat up in bed, every nerve alert. The house was silent otherwise. No cars, no wind, no rain. Just that soft, unnerving sound from downstairs. I grabbed my phone and opened the Ring app again. The live feed loaded, the front door and porch appearing in pale night vision. Nothing, but the tapping continued. I got out of bed and crept toward the stairs. The wood floor creaked under my bare feet, and for a split second, I thought maybe whoever was outside could hear it, that they were listening. Halfway down, I could see the living room, faint streetlight spilling through the blinds, washing the furniture in gray. The window by the couch was slightly open, not enough for a person to get in, just an inch. I'd cracked it earlier that day for some air, and that's when I saw it. A hand, pressed flat against the glass, not pounding, not clawing, just resting there. Pale fingers, motionless, outlined by the glow from the streetlight. I couldn't see the face, only the mask's reflection, faintly caught in the window. The same expressionless, cracked mask I'd seen in the footage. I froze, my mind screaming move, but my body wouldn't respond. Then, as if sensing I was watching, the hand slid slowly downward, leaving a faint smudge across the glass. That broke me. I ran back upstairs, locked my bedroom door, and called 911 again. The dispatcher stayed calm, told me to stay where I was until the officers arrived. It took them 10 minutes to show up. 10 long minutes of silence, broken only by the faint hum of my heartbeat in my ears. When they cleared the house, they said the same thing as before. Nobody there, no signs of forced entry, no footprints on the porch. But one officer paused by the living room window. He ran his thumb over the smudge. "Looks like oil," he said. "Could be from gloves." "Or hands," I whispered. He didn't answer, just nodded and told me to keep my lights on. Maybe install a motion floodlight for the yard. After they left, I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch until morning, watching the camera feeds on my phone, waiting for another motion alert that never came. For the next few nights, everything was quiet. Too quiet. No motion alerts, no footsteps, no tapping. Until Thursday night. I was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone buzzed. Ring, motion detected, front door. I tapped it open. The live feed showed me, standing in the doorway, staring straight into the camera. I dropped the mug. It shattered on the floor, hot coffee splattering across my feet. But I barely felt it. My eyes were locked on the screen. The person standing in my doorway looked exactly like me. Same hoodie, same messy hair, same tired expression. Only one thing was off. His face wasn't moving, not blinking, not breathing, just staring straight into the lens. I rushed to the door, but when I opened it, no one was there. The porch was empty, quiet, except for the faint creak of the old swing in the wind. My heart pounded so loud, it drowned out every other sound. I checked the yard, the street, even the neighbor's driveway. Nothing. The night was still. When I went back inside, I replayed the footage, desperate to make sense of it. But this time, when the video loaded, the timestamp was wrong. It didn't say 10:47 p.m. when I knew I'd just seen it. It said October 31st, 9:32 p.m., Halloween night, the same time the kids had come to my door. And in that moment, the footage changed again. The Mar on camera turned slowly toward the window, the living room window where the hand had pressed against the glass. He raised his hand, and even through the grainy night vision, I could see something dark smeared across his palm. He pointed toward the camera, and then the feed cut to static. I stood there, frozen, feeling like the air in the room had thickened. My own reflection stared back from the dark TV screen, and for a second, I thought I saw something moving behind me, just a shift of shadow, or maybe a person standing in the hall. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. The next morning, I called the police again. They were polite, but clearly tired of my reports. They checked everything, my locks, my cameras, my footage, and said what they always say. Could be a technical glitch, but glitches don't move. Glitches don't wear your clothes. Later that day, I sat in front of my computer and opened the saved Ring files. I don't even remember hitting play. The footage opened to that same scene. Halloween night, 4 kids on the porch. Except now, the 5th figure wasn't standing at the edge of the yard. It was standing directly behind me. Its mask was the one I'd worn the previous year, cracked down the middle. And this time, as I watched, I saw myself hand out candy, and then slowly turn my head, like I was aware, like I felt it behind me. The video ended right as the porch light flickered out. I deleted the footage, threw my phone across the room, and and sat there in silence. But every time I close my eyes now, I still see that figure standing there, patient, unmoving. And sometimes, when I walk past the hallway mirror at night, I swear there's 5 of us in the reflection.